So to start up a Jupyter Notebook, we type in Jupyter Notebook. And don't worry, if you're not sure what a Jupyter Notebook is, we'll have a section on that which goes through how you can use Jupyter Notebooks. All you need to know for now is that a Jupyter Notebook is somewhere where you can write Python code, especially machine learning and data science code, and write text around it and share your work with others. It's kind of like a big work pad that you can use and just pass it around online. We'll have plenty of experience with that as we go on. We'll hit enter. Now what the Jupyter command not found? Why is that? Well, we go over here. When we ran the command before for conda create, we had matplotlib, pandas, numpy, scikit-learn. But we missed out on the Jupyter package. Hold on, let's go up. Did we install the Jupyter package? We didn't. Matplotlib, numpy, pandas, scikit-learn. No Jupyter. So that's why it's come back, Jupyter command not found. So how do we fix this? Well, again, we can use our personal assistant, conda install. Now, install is a command where it's like, okay, I'm missing a package and I want to use it. I'm missing a tool and I need to use it. So I'm going to say conda install this tool for me. In our case, we want the Jupyter tool. So conda install Jupyter. Now, of course, we could have typed this up here before, but I've missed out Jupyter on purpose so I could show you this conda install. We could have put Jupyter here on the end after scikit-learn, but we're going to run it here. We'll hit enter. Now again, this is going to go, it's going to tell Conda we want Jupyter. It's going to query the internet, and Conda's like, okay, the following new packages to use Jupyter, I'm going to install all of these for you. We're going to hit yes, thank you, Conda. Now this is going to take a few seconds again. Now I know this is getting to be a long process, but once we've gone through this, we'll be able to automate this to almost just one line of code. So in the future, for future projects, once you understand the concept of creating a project folder, creating an environment, we'll just be able to make it nice and simple and do it in one step. For now, we're just going through it step by step so we can get the concepts as well as get a baseline environment set up for our future projects. And trust me, it took me a long time to get these concepts. So don't go thinking, oh, Daniel's entering these codes and he knows what to do. It's only because I've had a little bit of practice with this, all right? And I know this setting up environments is one of the biggest problems that we ran into working on a team of machine learning engineers. So once you get this down pat, everything else becomes a breeze. Not really, but yeah, you'll see. Okay, so what did we just do then? We ran the command, conda install Jupyter. Now we're not going to run that again, but what do you think this has done? If we go back here, we've got our project folder, we've got our environment folder. Now if we might get rid of this one because that's not what we're going to install. Now we've got this in our environment. That was Cat Boost, but we'll see that we don't need that for what we're doing now. We can use that in another project. So what have we done? We've got now an environment that we've created with Jupyter, Matplotlib, Pandas, scikit-learn, and NumPy. Now, what you need to know is that we're going to use Jupyter Notebooks, and we're going to use these tools for the majority of our data analysis steps. So this is kind of what we've just set up. We've set up an environment with these tools, but there's no use just talking about it. Let's see it. What can we actually do now? Now we've got Jupyter. Can we run the Jupyter Notebook command we tried to before? Jupyter Notebook. If we've done this right, this should load up the Jupyter interface. Beautiful. And we're going to go through this in a future lecture, but for now, what you need to know is what we can see here is the M folder. Why can we see that? Well, if we go here, the M folder, this is what we're seeing. Let's click on this one. So it's got all these things, bin, conda, meta, doc, etc. Same thing, bin, conda, meta, doc, etc. Beautiful. We don't have to worry about that. Conda's taken care of that. This is our environment with all our tools in it. What we care about for making Jupyter in Jupyter's interface is creating a new Jupyter notebook. You can do that over here for Python 3. Let's try it out. So this is going to create a new Jupyter notebook. And look, this is our workspace. You're going to get very used to using this beautiful interface. I actually really love Jupyter notebooks. So you can write code. It's Python code, right? So you can do 1 + 1. You can do print hello world. So you can do a few things in here. You can even write full functions. We're not going to do that because we're just focusing on seeing if our environment is set up. Now, there's a few more steps that we can do, or one more step really, we can do to check it. Now remember, we've installed Matplotlib, Pandas, scikit-learn, and NumPy into our environment, and we've ticked off Jupyter because this is a Jupyter notebook, so we've ticked that off. Now we want to check if these are available. How do we do that? Well, we can import them. Remember, import is saying, hey Python, go and grab these tools so I can use them in my notebook. Import pandas as PD. Now, pandas gets shortened to PD because it saves us typing out pandas a lot. So just know that pandas, whenever you see PD, it probably means pandas. Import NumPy as NP. NumPy gets shortened to NP. Import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. Now, the plots we want to make are from the pyplot module of matplotlib, and that gets shortened to PLT. Import sklearn, which is short for scikit-learn. All these little acronyms, don't worry about knowing them too much off by heart for now. You can just copy and paste this sort of stuff. I'll make sure there's a demo notebook in the resources section. But to test this, we're going to hit Shift and Enter. Shift and Enter is how you run a cell in Jupyter. Watch as that number goes up on the left. 3, 4, 4, 5. We do another one. Escape B creates a new cell. We'll learn all these in Jupyter. So print hello beautiful. That's going to be cell 6 because that's how many cells we've run. So this one should be 7 if we hit Shift and Enter. Excellent. Now, why did this work? Well, remember the code that we ran? We're not going to run it in terminal again, but it's going to be conda create prefix. This line of code is what helped us set this up. Prefix, pandas, NumPy, matplotlib, scikit-learn. What we've done is we've created a conda environment in our sample project folder, and we've installed pandas, NumPy, matplotlib, scikit-learn. But then we tried to run Jupyter, but we couldn't, so we used conda install Jupyter, and then we could access this Jupyter notebook. So that's the workflow. We have our computer, we downloaded Miniconda, which came along with Python, and Conda came along with Miniconda. So then we came into this one, and what we did on our computer was we created a project folder, and then within that project folder we used Conda to create an environment which now contains these tools. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we can now use this environment to work with our data and start to build machine learning models, start to analyze data. And because we've done it with Conda, if we wanted to share our environment with someone in the future, we can. But don't take my word for it. Let's go back over to Finder. If we look in the sample project folder, we've got env and untitled IPyNB. That stands for IPython Notebook, which is the old name for Jupyter Notebooks. So now our notebook with all of this code that we've just done is also within our project folder. Are you starting to see the value of having everything in one place? So now we could just go, hey, friend or colleague or anyone else that you want to share your work with, send them this folder and make sure the folder contains our environment, which are the tools we use, so our workbench, and the code we're going to write. Well, we don't have much code, but it'll send this across to our colleague or teammate. Now, there's one more thing before we finish up, and that's closing an environment and exiting Jupyter. So when you start a Jupyter notebook, we're back in terminal here, it'll have all these come up in your terminal. Now, to get out of it, to close your Jupyter notebook down, you might do this at the end of your day or whenever you're finished work and you want to start a new project or work on another project. We're going to hit Control and C at the same time. That Control and C, whenever you're in terminal or something like that, is like saying, hey, kill the current running process. So we're going to do that. Control C, shut down this notebook server. Yes, we're going to hit yes. Oh, maybe we timed out for that. We'll try again. So we're shutting it down. Now we're going to see a connection failed here, because we're no longer connected to our Jupyter Notebook, which makes sense because we just shut it down. That's okay. But you see we're still back in our environment. We've got our environment active. Now say, for example, we wanted to change to another project, so another project of this in a different environment. We want to exit the one we're currently in to go to another one. So we can go conda to deactivate an environment. You type conda deactivate, which is telling Conda, hey, exit me out of the environment I'm currently in because I want to go into another one. So we'll do that, conda deactivate. Now look, we're back to base. So if we go to conda env list, that'll tell us the list of environments we have. We have base. Now, when we downloaded Miniconda, remember how I said it comes with the bare essentials? What do you think would happen if we tried to run a Jupyter Notebook from the base environment? Let's try. Jupyter command not found. Why is that? Well, because remember when we created this environment, we installed Jupyter? Base doesn't have that. It has the bare necessities. We had to create our own custom env before we could access Jupyter. Now, how would we get back into this, back into working on our project? Now, these steps I'll include in the resources section, but this is what you'll probably get most used to when working on different projects, all right? So we go here, conda activate. Remember, conda, we wrote this one down earlier. Conda activate, which is saying, conda, hey, activate my environment, called this one. We're going to type that out, users. Yours might be different, right? Remember, this is custom depending on what you've labeled your projects or your environments. The standard name is env though, so that might not change. This project folder might change depending on what project we're working on, and this user might change depending on your actual user. And you might not even have it on the desktop. So remember, this line of code will be custom depending on your own settings. We're going to hit enter. So see how we've just changed from base back to this. So now we're active in our env. So if we type in Jupyter Notebook, remember this is the workflow. Jupyter Notebook, we come back, we're going to see this is the Jupyter interface and this is the notebook we created 5 minutes ago. And we come in here. Now whenever you come back to a Jupyter Notebook, these cells are going to reset. So 1, 2, that was just 5, that was 6, now it's going to be 3, this will be 4. And again, we're going to have a whole section on Jupyter Notebooks, but this is the main thing we need to remember for now. Beautiful. We're back in our environment, we're back working. Let's just do a quick recap of what we've actually done. Have our computer, that's what we started with. We downloaded Miniconda, which came along with Conda. And we come into this one. We wanted to set up an environment to work on our heart disease project. So what did we do? We had our computer, we created a project folder on our desktop called sample project, and then we used Conda to create an environment and installed these tools, Jupyter, Matplotlib, NumPy, Pandas, scikit-learn, into our environment. And what we were left with, if we come back to Finder, is we've got an environment folder within our sample project folder and a Jupyter Notebook with some template code. Now you'll see in the future projects that these lines here are going to form the basis of many future projects. These 4 tools themselves are fundamental to machine learning and data analysis as a whole. So you'll probably get very familiar, or you will get very familiar if you go through this course, importing them and using them. But that's enough for now. Remember, if you get stuck, check the resources section. Don't forget to look at something like this flowchart. There's also a blog post that goes along with it, but that'll all be in the resources section.